Hi guys, welcome back. Happy November. As I'm filming this, it is currently November 1st. I hope everyone had a great October. I know I did. Today we are going through all the books that I read in October. Also, little special guest came to say hello. If you're gonna come in here, Luna, you're gonna pay tax. Say hi. Without further ado, let's talk about all of the books that I read in October. So for stats, I read a total of 13 books in October, and 6 of those books were fantasy. 3 of those books were graphic novels / manga. 2 of those were romances and 2 of those were mystery thrillers, and I did DNF a book. It was a soft DNF. I might come back to it. The book that I DNF'd was Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I still do want to read, so it's a soft DNF. I just was reading this. I picked it up in the middle of a 24-hour readathon, and I was just getting tired. It was over halfway through, probably like 3/4 of the way through the readathon. And I just needed something that I knew would keep my attention, and I read the first couple pages and it just like wasn't what I was in the mood for in that moment. So I did soft DNF it, and I did return it to the library, and we'll pick it up on a later date. I have my stack right here of all the physical books that I read, and then I have some that I borrowed from the library through Libby that I do not have. These are only 7 of the 13. The other 6 were either on my Kindle or borrowed through Libby. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. The first book that I read this month was The Ex-Hex. I did audio of this book and I enjoyed it. It was a fun little October read. I gave it 3.5 stars. Wasn't anything super crazy, definitely very like seasonal read. It basically follows a girl who is a witch, and a long time ago she accidentally cursed someone, and that person comes back to her small town, and then stuff starts happening with the town and the magic attached to the town, and her and the person that she cursed have to try to work together to try to figure out how to stop all of the crazy stuff that's happening. So it was cute. Good October read. I personally would not recommend it outside of spooky season. Then I read Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Every book that I have read from her has been a 4-star and above. This one along with it. It was a 4-star read for me. I thought it was so fun. It follows Hannah, and she is moving back to LA from New York, I think is where she was moving from. She moves a lot, and she's moving back to her hometown, and her best friend hosts a welcome home party, and within that party there is a scene where her ex asks her to stay at the party with him, and her best friend is going home, and that's who she is staying with, and that's her ride. So she has to pick between staying and talking and hanging out with her ex or going home with her best friend. And at that moment, the timeline in the book splits off into 2, and you follow her along as she picks both paths. I thought it was really cute and a really fun concept. This is my second form of media in this kind of story line. I saw a musical with Idina Menzel a couple years ago that basically followed the same premise. She had to pick between 2 choices, and it follows her life within the 2 choices. So I really enjoyed it. It was unique and fun, and another Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I adore. And then I read a book on my Kindle. I borrowed it from the library. It was the 3rd volume of Spy Family. If you watched any of my other wrap-ups, you know that I've been slowly going through this manga series. This one I gave 3 stars as all the other ones. Super cute, super fun, fast read, follows a spy and his pretend family, and they each have their own little secret that they're hiding from the rest of the family, and just follows the journey as the spy and his fake family do his mission. So super cute. Excited to read the next one. I haven't gotten it from the library yet. It became available to borrow, but I didn't borrow it fast enough, so it relapsed. So hopefully I will get that again soon. And then I read another book on my Kindle. This book I got as an ARC copy. The author reached out to me on my Bookstagram, and it is called Prelude of Fire. It was fun and cute. It's a fantasy young adult book. I gave it between like 3.75 and 4 stars. It was good. It wasn't amazing. It definitely is more catered towards young adult, and there is quite a few religious topics that are heavily discussed throughout it, which for me, I'm a Christian, so that didn't really bother me. But I know for some people it might bother them if it keeps being brought up and you're not a religious person, but it didn't bother me too much. I will say it felt like a really long book. The storyline was very slow moving. Besides that, it was a good, fun, fantasy, young adult book. So give it a try if you want. It came out on the 25th of October, so it is out to order now. You can get it on Amazon. So if you like fantasy, give it a try. And then I read the 4th volume of Lore Olympus. I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 3 stars also. I am really been enjoying this series, and I think I don't know how many books there are in this, but every time I go to the library they have the next ones that I need now, so I've just been picking them up as I go. But it's just a story following Persephone and Hades, and if you like Greek mythology and are looking to start a graphic novel for the first time, or looking for a new graphic novel and you like Greek mythology, I would recommend picking these ones up. And then I read Legends and Lattes. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It is a cozy fantasy, and it follows an orc as she is opening up a coffee shop in a town where no one has even heard the word coffee. They don't know what it is, and she's opening it up and starting a new life, going away from all of her battle and fighting that she was doing before. It was super cute. I enjoyed it. I have been really into the cozy fantasies. They're perfect for fall time, and I just have been adoring them. Then I read Drowning, The Rescue of Flight 1421. This one is a thriller type book. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I went in expecting it to be like a 3-star. It ended up being a 4-star read. I found myself crying at the end of it, which I was not prepared for. But this one, it basically follows this dad and his daughter as they are on a plane leaving Hawaii to go somewhere. I don't remember exactly where they were going, but the daughter was supposed to be going to like some camp, and the dad was accompanying her. The plane ends up having some kind of malfunction and ends up having to crash land into the ocean, and they are trying to get everyone off, but the oils from the plane with the heat ended up causing a fire on the water. And so the dad is an engineer, and he tells everyone that's left in the plane to stay in the plane and close the doors, because the way with the currents and the winds and everything, the fire out on the water, by the time that the rescue team would get there wouldn't be anything left for them to save. They close the doors to the plane, and the plane ends up sinking to the bottom of the ocean with all of them still in there. There's like 12 passengers still on this plane, and it is teetering on the edge of a cliff, and the one person, they get a team together to try to rescue them from the water. And the one person that's heading this mission is the dad's soon-to-be ex-wife. So, yeah. It was a pleasant surprise. I would recommend it. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. It's not going to be one that I will continuously think about like other books that I've read, but it was enjoyable when I was reading it, and it was fast-paced. I did a reread of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I am rereading the series, and it has been so fun. This one is one of my favorites from the whole series, especially the movie is so good, and the book is just, it is definitely one of my favorites, if not my all-time favorite from the whole series. So I adored giving it a reread and rewatching it. My husband is one of his favorites too, so he rewatched the movie with me after I finished reading this one. And I'm just waiting for my next hold to be available because I am rereading through audio form so that I can read other books as I am listening to them. So, love this one. They're always so good. This will always be 5 stars in my heart, so of course it was a 5-star read. The next book I read was again on my Kindle, and it is the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. It is the second one in the interconnected standalone series from Laurie Gilmore. The first one was the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I will say I liked the Pumpkin Spice Cafe a little bit more than I liked the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. I just found the story of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe a little bit more up my alley versus the story from the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. And it also had a little bit more spice in it, which I personally am not the biggest fan of. I will just skip through those parts, but I found myself having to skip quite a bit reading that one. So I'm hoping the next one is not as spicy. We shall see. But I will be reading the next one in December because it is Christmas. So I'm excited for that one, but I gave this one a 3.5 stars, so not as high as the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, but I still liked it. I was hoping for more fall vibes, but it was almost giving like end of summer vibes instead, which I was not expecting. So I will say there's a lot of good quotes in this book, especially as a book lover, because it's about a girl who's a book lover. It follows Hazel at the end of summer. She's a month away from turning 30, and she feels like her life has kind of passed her by, and she's having some like midlife crisis about turning 30, and so she ends up finding books in the bookstore that she works at that have pages that are highlighted and underlined and stuff, and she feels like they're telling her to go do stuff, and so she takes those highlighted parts from the books and ends up turning it into an end of summer adventure before she turns 30 with Small Town Fisherman. So it was cute. Not my favorite out of the two, but I will be picking up the third one, and I'm pretty sure there's a fourth one coming out soon too, so I will be reading that one as well. And I listened to The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden. I have been, for the past 3 months now, I've read a Frida McFadden book a month, and this one was my least favorite out of all of them. I just felt like the story, I kind of predicted where it was going, which I feel like her other 2 books that I've read, I have been pleasantly surprised by the plot twists and the endings, but this one I kind of saw coming, so it was my least favorite out of all of the books that I've read from her, but I gave this one a 3.5. So I still enjoyed it. I would seriously recommend this author if you like mystery thrillers and you are looking for a new author, or you are just wanting to read some. I have recommended her to a couple of my clients, so I definitely still recommend her, and I would recommend this one as well. It just was my personal least favorite out of all of the ones that I've read. I say that like I've read a lot of her books. I've read 3. This was my 3rd book from her, but it was still my least favorite, so take that as you will. And then I read 5-star read right here. The second, Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath. I am really liking this series. I am currently reading the third one on my Kindle because I could not buy the hardback when the other two are paperback. I'm 300 pages into the third one on my Kindle, but I have been adoring this series. This one continues to follow Bryce and Hunt from the first book, but they are kind of thrown into the rebellion that's coming along, basically. But I enjoyed it. I immediately, after finishing this one, immediately went and purchased the third one on my Kindle so I could start it immediately following, because I just needed to know what happens, because the ending of this one, I had my jaw was dropped. I was like, oh my god. The ending of this one just made me so happy, and it is making me excited for her other series right here. But anyway, I digress. I loved it. 5 stars. It still is my least favorite of her series out of the 3, but I'm still really enjoying it, and she is definitely one of my favorite authors of all time. So if you've been putting off reading Crescent City because you've heard mixed things or bad things, I'm here to tell you it is still really fun. It is fun to be in an urban fantasy in modern day time with skyscrapers and cell phones and all those things versus your everyday fantasy. It just was fun. It's fun to mix it up a little bit and read something a little different than what you normally read in a fantasy book. And I listened to A Shadow Crown. I read the first book of this, A Broken Blade, like over a year ago. Yeah, so I read A Broken Blade, which was the first one, in March of 2023. So it has been like a year and a half since I have read the first one. So before I read the second one, I had to TikTok a Broken Blade recap so that I could remember what happened because it had been so long. But I still really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5 star. It's a fun little fantasy book. I am excited to continue and read the third one whenever it becomes available on my Libby, but it's been so long that I do not trust myself to give a summary of that book. And I don't want to spoil anything from the second one. So if you're interested, go do a quick little Google search on Goodreads or Amazon or just plain Google and read the synopsis from the first one to see if it's a book that you would enjoy. And then the last book that I read in October is a special book because it was also book number 100 that I've read this year. So I've officially read 100 books so far this year, and it was the 5th Lore Olympus book. So again, just following Persephone and Hades, Greek mythology, gave it 3 stars. I'm just repeating myself every time I show you one of these, so I'm not going to say anything else, but it was my 100th book of the year, which is so exciting. I can't believe I hit 100 books. I was expecting, not really expecting to hit 100 because I got into reading again for the first time last year since like high school, and I read like 74 books or something like that, and I wasn't sure if that was a fluke because I had just gotten back into reading or if that was realistically how much I could read in a year. So I set my reading goal on Goodreads to 50 because I didn't want to set it for 75 and be if it was just like a fluke of getting back into reading, but I can officially say that it was not a fluke and I actually do read obsessively and can read a lot of books in a year. So I'm excited to see how much I read come the end of December. these are all of the books that I read in October. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me chit chat about all the books that I read. I hope you guys have a great rest of your morning, evening, night whenever you are watching, and I will see you in my next one.